Yo, what is going on, guys? It's your boy AA on 2 bringing you guys my D-League Week 10 game against Zazo, coach of the Detroit Butterfrees. Now, I know if you guys haven't already, you can watch the team builder, of course. It'll be at the end card at the end of this video because the most recent upload. Otherwise, of course, you can always check out the team builder. My team, if anyone is not interested in doing that though, I have Elite Archeops with Stealth Rock, Stone Edge, Earthquake, HP Ice. I have Shaka Volcanion with Steam Eruption, Flamethrower, Toxic, HP Ice. I have Hydreigon with Taunt, Roost, Dark Pulse, Earth Power. Titanium-Z Thundurus with Superpower, Bulk Up, Sky Drop, and Thunder Punch. Spikes, Toxic Spikes, Giga Drain, and Hidden Power, Rock Roserade. And Sheer Force Hariyama with Life Orb, and it has Low Sweep, Knockoff, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch this week. So in terms of Zazo's team, he brings the Crook, Garchomp, which, as I mentioned in my team player, I was really almost certain that he would bring Dual Ground. I felt like, as I said, my ground type moves, or my ground type immunities get handled by these two anyway pretty well, and he pressure me out enough to the point where they just win. Blissey, I anticipated that for a Volcanion answer, as it's probably by far his best one. Zapdos, I felt like Zapdos was probably going to come just because it's his only removal, and if I spike stack versus him and he doesn't have a removal, then I sort of win, to be honest. Mega Mawile, I wasn't really sure if this would come or not. I definitely see the merit for it, but I felt like he would probably bring Ferrothorn Slowbro over Mega Mawile Dusclops. I also saw Talonflame potentially coming. Actually, Talonflame, I guess, is a defogger too, but with just me hazard stacking overall, I felt like that would pressure Talonflame into a position it did not want to be in. So Zapdos was his only reliable defogger, I should say. But Dusclops and Mega Mawile, I definitely see the merit here. I figured, as I said, it would be Slowbro Ferrothorn. Regardless, though, as I said, I think that anything could lead here, to be honest, besides the Dusclops. So I feel like my lead overall is going to be best put as Quetzalcoatl. I figured that if he leads Garchomp, I could potentially just HP Ice, scout his spread, or at the very least, I think my play would turn 1 be Rocks, because if he leads off with either Crook or Garchomp, which he leads off with his Crocodile, the potential for a Scarf set could be detrimental to me if he goes for an attack turn 1 and I go for HP Ice trying to hit them, because not only would I be put in defeatus range anyway, but I would also be missing out on getting up my Stealth Rocks, chances are, if he got up some hazards later on. I would essentially need to sack something and get in Quetzalcoatl for free, and even then I would need to bank on him not having hazards up to have any chance of getting up hazards of my own. So turn 1 Rocks, even if it meant I essentially sack this thing, I felt like was the optimal play. He actually goes into Hisoka here out of Toguru, which is his Dusclops. I figured that was perfectly fine because I really don't need Archeops at this point. I am going to go for an HP Ice. I figured that he was probably going to maybe stay in and just kill me off. It's fine that he didn't. A little bit of chip on Dusclops always helps. At this point, though, I am going to preserve because I felt like he was either going to go for a Seismic Toss or a Shadow Sneak to pick me off. Regardless, I know that Burn can handle that, and then I could potentially taunt this thing and then try and just start going for Dark Pulses. Either that or he goes into Blissey, I felt like, and again, if I'm going for taunt, I can definitely handle a Blissey 1v1. So he actually decides here that he is going to switch out. However, it was actually going to be going to Corey in ITH. I'm assuming that was for Corey in the house. But that's perfectly fine by me because I'm able to get off a taunt, which means that he can not only not defog away the rocks, but he also cannot try and roost up on my switch, or if I stayed in, he'd not try and roost up just to get his HP back to a healthy amount. So that is perfectly fine by me. As I said, this was a very, very good case scenario for me because it does definitely force him out, as he can really only just go for offensive moves, and me trying to switch around that is fairly easy this game. So he actually goes into Itachi here, his Mawile, which of course does get an Intimidate off, doesn't matter at all because we're special. And I just go for Dark Pulse here. I figured that if he's not a really Spidef Mawile, then I can go for an Earth Power plus Dark Pulse and guarantee take this thing out regardless. So he actually decides he's going to switch out, as I also switch out here. I go into Quetzalcoatl. I figured I could sack this thing to Mega Mawile. This was probably my ideal time to sack because I don't have great switch-ins if he stayed in. He, however, also does switch out, and he goes into Axel, which ends up being his Garchomp. So this is a perfectly fine scenario for us. I figured I'm free to go for an HP Ice. I anticipated he might try and get up Rocks because I've been switching out a lot this game. But if he killed me off, that was perfectly fine too. He actually does go for the Dragon Claw here. And I am perfectly fine with this because I figured that if he does kill me off here, it does allow me to try and gain the upper hand in terms of bringing in something to handle his team. So I decide this time it is perfectly fine for me to bring in Little China, our Hariyama. So he actually does switch out here. I anticipated he probably wasn't going to stay in because of the fact that I brought this thing in. He's probably certain that I can handle him. So he actually goes into Mawile here, which of course does get off the Intimidate. So Itachi already putting in the finest of work versus me. However, Little China should not be stopped, and we do get off the low sweep, and we get a crit as well. So that's very nice. Mega Mawile being gone is so beneficial to us for the rest of this game, because trying to switch in on this thing is a pain in the ass, but luckily we do have this thing taken care of. He does bring Corey in the house here, aka his Zapdos, and he goes for a Defog. So I was perfectly fine by this. I figured he was either going to go for a Defog or maybe even like a Toxic or a Volt Switch. I was fine with any of those regardless, because I'm pretty free to get off an Ice Punch here. His switch-ins to this aren't that great. He has 2 ground types who aren't going to take that well. Blissey has like no Fizz Def, and if you switch in Dusclops, that may potentially, between the rocks and the damage it's already taken, put it in range of a knockoff. So him getting crit through his Zapdos was definitely very unfortunate. That would not have killed otherwise, especially with a -1 attack. However, I'm not complaining. It's very beneficial to me. He does bring in his Hisoka here, the Dusclops, which is a perfectly free opportunity for me to bring in a Kiza, because especially since he has now lost his Defogger, I can take a Will-O-Wisp fairly well, I can take a Seismic Toss well enough, I get up at least 1 guaranteed layer of Spikes, and even at this point, 1 layer of Spikes is going to hurt Zazo's team so much, because he brought the dual ground types, which means he has no recovery, whereas if he brought, instead of either one of his ground types, or instead of Dusclops, he brought like Ferrothorn and Slowbro, that would have been a lot more switchability on his team. However, Roserade could have potentially beaten Slowbro 1v1 anyway, so it would have been easy for us to handle in terms of that core, but it would have been better switching in on our Spikes. But since he didn't bring any recovery besides Blissey and potentially Pain Split or Rest, which Pain Split or Rest are not reliable recovery necessarily, so even that 1 layer of Spikes does help. Of course, we do have to sack Roserade to this Corkscrew Crashing Garchomp. However, I'm not really mad about that, because one, I found out now that he is Z Garchomp, which does help, because now I know for a fact he's not going to be, let's say, a Scarf Garchomp, which does help us a lot in terms of playing around it. And also it means that I can handle this thing with Oceanman, our Volcanion, because he is definitely in range of a Steam Eruption at this point. He's also in range of an HP Ice, of course, because he's not Yache Berry. I figured his switching was probably Blissey here, and while I could have gone for Toxic, I felt like going for the Steam Eruption and trying to get off a burn was very nice, because even if he didn't bring in Blissey, and let's say he tried to bring in something else, no matter what, his team was going to be very easily pressured by a Steam Eruption, I felt like, besides the Blissey. And if he does go into Blissey, I do have a very, very solid switch into that, which is, of course, Little China, our Hariyama, because we have not taken any damage on this thing, so that does mean that we are at a pretty healthy amount of HP to just handle whatever comes in. He actually doubles back out into Axel here, puts himself in a range of an Ice Punch and a Low Sweep, of course. I felt like my play here was definitely to just stay in and go for an Ice Punch. He does go for Dragon Claw, of course, puts us in a range where after Rough Skin we're at about half, or slightly below half. Perfectly fine by me. I figured regardless though, my play was definitely Ice Punch. Regardless, it would have been a contact move though. I felt like Ice Punch was the play though, because if he brought in Hisoka, his Dusclops, then he was going to definitely be taking that plus a knockoff and then dying. Whereas if I went for a Low Sweep there, then while it would have hit better on the Blissey and the Crocodile, I felt like that going for the Low Sweep was not worth letting in Hisoka for free. I do bring in Jesus here. I figured that he was probably going to go for something that would handle, of course, my Hariyama. I did not anticipate that being Superpower, however, though that was probably predicting a potential Hydreigon coming in. So that is perfectly fine by me though. Of course, this does put us in range to just click whatever move we want. I actually decided I'm going to go for my Fightinium Z here, because I knew I can kill off Crook with this. I can kill off Garchomp with this. Actually, Garchomp already died. I can kill off Blissey with this, my bad. And if he goes into Dusclops, it's perfectly fine. I felt like he still doesn't know that we're physical yet, and us going for the Fightinium Z doesn't reveal anything. So that's another reason I was pretty okay with doing that, because now he is, of course, going to switch out yet again. He actually goes back out into Crook here, and I go for Sky Drop. I figured it was pretty free at this point. I also know for a fact from this Crook switching in multiple times, it's definitely not Intimidate Crook, which makes me believe it is potentially Moxie Crook, which, again, perfectly fine by me. I'm perfectly okay with this, because I do have countermeasures to bring in right after he kills me off. He goes for a knockoff, perfectly fine by me, because even a +1 knockoff is still not going to beat what it needs to hit in terms of my mons left over, because I do have Volcanion, I have Burn our Hydreigon, which of course is my optimal play, and I have Little China our Hariyama, and a +1 knockoff really only can do anything to Little China. So it does force him out, of course, here, and he goes into Trunks, which is his Blissey, of course. So I'm perfectly fine by this. I'm pretty free to just go for an Earth Power. I figured it kills Crook at this point. That plus Dark Pulse does a fair amount of damage to Hisoka, his Dusclops, and if he does bring in Blissey here, I'm pretty free to just go for a Taunt. He does know I have the Taunt, so he might try and play around that and go for like a Seismic Toss or something, or some other move for Hydreigon, which I was pretty okay with, because I'm going to take any hit for this thing regardless. So I go for the Taunt here, and he actually reveals that he's going to have Ice Beam this week, So very, very solid play on Zazo's part, of course. However, because of my spread, it is not going to be enough to take me out. In fact, it's not even going to be enough to 1v1 me. I can always go for a Roost and recover this HP back. So his Blissey is now put in a position where it is just waiting to die unless he switches out. So he actually does withdraw here, and he goes straight into Toguro, his Crocodile, and that's perfectly fine by me. I actually decided here that I was going to go for a Dark Pulse, because if you try to switch out into Toguro, it died at this point. If he goes into Hisoka, it ended up being 2-hit KO'd, or if not 2-hit KO'd, then dying, depending on his spread. And if he stayed in with Blissey there, regardless, another Ice Beam would not have killed me even if he got a crit. So I could always Roost up next turn guaranteed, because he is obviously not faster than me. We've already seen that, and there's no possible way he would have been. So me going for Taunt here again, pretty free play. Even if he went into Hisoka here, that would have probably been my play, because it could have stopped him from getting off a Pain Split. This, of course, does stop him going for a Soft Boil here. He might have tried to think that I was maybe going for a Dark Pulse, seeing as how he predicted my taunt last time, but it was really not worth it to just go for an attack there, in case if he did go for the Soft Boil like he does, of course. I get another crit here. Of course, I'll take what I can get. I'm playing someone who is much better than I am, so I'm going to need every bit of hacks I can get. And I, of course, am going to be able to 1v1 this Blissey at this range, as Blissey is really only banking on Leftovers recovery. And while it is a slow and painful process to 1v1 this Blissey, it is definitely going to be worth it, because I 100% win at this point if I can 1v1 the Blissey with Burn the High Dragon. So Trunks here is really not in a position to do anything besides just go for Ice Beam and hope that maybe he can get a freeze, because that's really all Zazo has at this point. He needs to freeze me or get the paralysis by going for a Thunderbolt, which he does, spoiler alert, he does have Thunderbolt for things like Volcanion. But he really needs to bank on a 10% from either of those moves to try and have any chance at 1v1ing me. I go for another taunt here, of course. I really just can't let this thing get a Soft Boil up, even if it does mean he gets off a free Ice Beam versus me and then gets passive Leftovers recovery. It's not worth just letting him get a Soft Boil. And at this point, he actually does freeze us finally. Going for enough Ice Beams, eventually you're going to get that. So I'm not really mad about that. As I said, I still do have countermeasures to the Blissey. And he does, of course, get up more Leftovers recovery, perfectly fine. I still have the taunt up as well, so I'm actually going to switch out here from Burn, and I'm going to go into Oceanman, our Volcanion. I figured that I can potentially force a switch here by me bringing in this, because I can go for Toxic on this thing, and then, of course, he's either going to stay in and go for wait to stall me out until he can get a Heal Bell, which I didn't think was a very likely play by him, or he can just take the Toxic and switch out and go into Hisoka, which I can definitely kill off, and then at that point, Little China is pretty free to just go for a low sweep. So he has to go for Thunderbolt here, which is a little bit scary for us, because it does show that he can actually get off a fair amount of damage. However, I should have probably just stayed in and just done some damage to this Blissey, because once he switched out into Hisoka, I was pretty free to just kill that off. However, I didn't think that it was necessarily worth risking Oceanman, so I felt like I could always get off a Toxic late game if he only had Blissey left, and I could just try and stall it out. So I actually go back in Little China here. Had I just sacked off Volcanion, though, I could have potentially just tried to clean with Little China there, and that would have probably been my optimal play. However, it's still fine. It's not like it was a choke or anything, because I could still handle his team very well with Little China. And I am pretty much forcing him out at this point, as he is not in range to kill me yet. And I do guarantee that no matter what, I can kill off the Dusclops at this range. Between Knockoff and an Ice Punch, no matter what, he's going to die to that. So I actually do just that. I go for the Knockoff here, and I get it to pretty much dead. And at this point, he is definitely in range of an Ice Punch. If he has Shadow Sneak, he can definitely pick me off here. However, he does prove to not have it, or at the very least not click it. And me going for an Ice Punch here does kill off Hisoka. So at this point, I have anticipated that I pretty much win with Little China. Unless if he's some sort of speed-invested Blissey. Because of course, a speed-invested Blissey would end up being able to pick us off right here, as he does prove to be so. So this does put us in a little bit of a position here, because at this point I do need to Toxic Stall the Blissey. And while it is definitely possible, it is going to be a little bit difficult to do. If he has Soft Boil, then he essentially wins this game at this point, unless I can unthaw my High Dragon. So that was definitely a little bit detrimental to our winning the game. However, I do go for Toxic here. I figured he could definitely go for a Soft Boil, perfectly fine by me. He's going to be at the very least taking Toxic damage, as he has proven to have Bolt Beam and Soft Boil. I don't know what his fourth move was, and I honestly can't remember. Maybe he clicked it earlier in the game. I cannot remember. He does prove to have Thunderbolt and Ice Beam, however, and between the Toxics and my Steam Eruptions, I could potentially wear down Trunks' Blissey. I can always check back later on and maybe see what he had. I'll check back after the game and see if I can figure it out in his spread. However, my Steam Eruptions plus Toxic here are actually going to wear him down enough to the point where he actually clicks Ice Beam here. He was probably anticipating it, just me switching into High Dragon and trying to double out and take a Thunderbolt really well. And then, of course, he would just lose HP to Toxic. However, because he went for the Ice Beam there, he actually does guarantee lose this game at this point because I'm now going to be able to kill him off with a Steam Eruption. So, very good game to Zazo. While, of course, I definitely did hack you out in the beginning, I think that the freeze on High Dragon, of course, made up for that because it did mean that I was put in a lot worse of a position to try and win this game. However, we still did manage to pull through, and we did manage to beat Zazo. To the 6 of you guys who picked me, actually the 5 of you guys who picked me, because I know that Sock put up a vote for so that people could react with it for pick'ems. So to the other 5 of you guys who picked me for pick'ems this week, I love you all. In terms of the fan Discord, that is, I'm assuming that no one picked me on the analyst side, which in that case, fuck you guys, I won. But yeah, I think that I played really solid this game. Of course, hacks did help a lot. In terms of his team, I'm going to open up right now, actually, so sorry that you guys will see the folder. I'm recording in Camtasia just because it's a lot easier to record with, of course, so you guys will see the windows popping up. Perfectly fine by me. I don't really care a lot that you guys will see that. I'm just going to open up the save real quick, and fuck, I gotta open up from the replay as well, actually. So 1 second, guys. I'm just trying to get to, because I can actually open up Zazo's team through my battle video. So that's what I'm doing right now. Let's see. God damn it, I actually have to open up another folder to do this. So pardon me while I take this time to do that real quick. Let's see, BT videos. And then I literally just got to drag the file in and I can check what his last move on Blissey was. I just wanted to see if it was potentially like a heal bell or something. Just because, of course, that could have potentially made a difference. So his last move on Blissey was Calm Mind. Okay, so that explains it. Calm Mind Bolt Beam actually pretty solid against my team, not gonna lie, especially the slower mods such as like Volcanion, Hariyama, etc. Especially with the speed investment, which he does have to speed creep my Hariyama. So of course, very, very solid rings by Zazo this game. He played one hell of a game. Definitely made it, even with the hacks, he made it one hell of a fight to try and win this game. However, we are now 3-7. And we are going to be going to last week against Leo, coach of the Durham Dragons. I really want to get this last win, as hard as it may be to get. I want to try and win. I'm going to try and still have fun. Leo and I have already agreed to do a meme game, so I am going to be seeing another game of Tinker Shell, of course, and hopefully we can get a kill with Tinker Shell even, or at the very least, maybe we can get some sort of Tinker Shell assist. Regardless, though, I'm really looking forward to my game versus Leo. I actually play Leo tomorrow, so that game will go up on Sunday, of course. But if you guys did enjoy, leave a like down below. I am looking forward to seeing you guys for the last week of the D-League. It has been an honor to play for you guys, and to at the very least see I beat someone who I shouldn't have. And also I beat the, of course, future champ Goldoa Dragon, who is my pick to win this season. If I could pick anyone, I want Goldoa to win, because as I said, I cannot make playoffs anymore. That was confirmed after last week versus Melon when I got slaughtered yet again. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season plays out for my friends. And I will see you guys, though, in the next D-League video. Peace out.